Welcome to the Ultimatum, episodes 1 through 4. One word to describe the show is messy. In this video, I break down the 6 couples, talk about their attachment style I think each person has, and which couples I would like to see stay together. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Reality TV Therapy. Welcome to Reality TV Therapy with me, Dr. Diane. The new show Ultimatum by Netflix. The premise is marry or move on. The first season is 8 episodes dropped all at once, and it's filmed in Austin, Texas. Even the hosts, Vanessa and Nick Lachey, say it's not good if you have to give an ultimatum. And as a psychologist and couples therapist, I would have to agree. But here we meet 6 stressed out couples all going through another experiment, not that different from Love is Blind. But things to keep in mind. The producers of such reality TV shows, ultimately they want to keep you till the end, keep you guessing. I'm here to suggest that remember these shows are highly edited and might suggest that one couple is doing better or worse. Again, all for the sake of drama. But what I'd like to do here, because I'm rooting for love, not any particular person, I want to highlight the behaviors that make for healthy couples relationships, because this will be so helpful information for you. But did you notice how everyone on this show seems particularly young? Right? Do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments below, because the average age range is from 23 to 30. Now, do these people you have to ask even know what marriage is about? But I had to look up what is the norm for people getting married in Texas, because every state has a different average. And in Texas, the average age for men to marry is 28 and a half, and for women 26 and a half. Now, every state, as I said, is different, because in California, men don't get married till 30 and women 28. But it seems to me like there's some pressure in particular that the women feel to get married and to settle down. Therefore, to give the ultimatum. I want to tell you a little bit about how I want to analyze each couple. And if you don't know anything about attachment styles, you can check out my website. But I want to talk briefly what your attachment style means and why it's so important. I use this model called attachment theory because it's empirically validated, meaning it's been studied in various research trials. It's not a diagnosis, your attachment style, but it helps us understand what we're going to need and want primarily in our romantic relationships, all based upon how you attached or you didn't attach to your parents when you were young, because the first 2 years of your life are crucial in terms of how you attach and therefore what you're going to need in your next relationships. So there's 4 primary attachment styles, and I'm going to be using these terms. Just get familiar with them. Start to think when you look at the cast, who might be who. It explains so much. Of the 4 types, the first type is a secure type. This is the optimal type. I would call them secure Steve or Sophia. This person attached very well with their parents. Their parents also had good boundaries. They know how to trust people. Chances are a secure functioning person wouldn't come on the show, unless of course their partner brought them there. But most people are insecure types. So this isn't an awful thing. It's not your fault, and it can be improved upon. But the 3 other insecure types are anxious, the anxious ambivalent person. I call them nervous Nora or Nick because I have characters I describe in my quiz. But oftentimes your parents were inconsistent. So therefore in your romantic relationships you need reassurance, validation, closeness, connection, to be seen, heard, and understood. Think about who you think might be in this category. The 3rd type is called avoidant, or more anxious, dismissive. I call them independent Ian or Isabel because they seek independence and they don't want to lose it. This person, and all of this happens under stress, where your primary attachment needs are going to show up. That's why I use the theory for reality TV, because all of them are under stress, right? We got to move to commitments, connections quickly. That's the stress, the bubbling hot water underneath that brings out someone's true flavor. But the independent person worries about making the right commitment. They fear being trapped, losing their independence, something they fought so hard for. They grew up in a family that was more low touch, low affect, not a lot of sharing or vulnerability. So they're going to struggle with that. Think about who might be in this category. Fourth is the fearful avoidant. I call them confused Connie or Connor. What do they need? Well, they suffered abuse or neglect in their childhood. They need a very trusting person who is very loyal and very patient, because they have a lot of triggers in their relationship, and so we can see a lot of high reactivity. But the majority of people who are going to go on a reality dating show or a reality TV show is someone who usually is anxious, the nervous type, right? Because they hate when their partner feels ambivalent about them, and or in a dating show they like to connect quickly. Now, something else to keep in mind, also I differentiate communication styles between the low expressive and high expressive person. Somebody who wants to talk through everything quickly, or other low expressive people who might hold things close to the chest. All right, given that model, think about those 4 types: secure, nervous, independent, and confused. Okay, let's start with the first couple, Alexis and Hunter. Alexis is 25, Hunter's 28. They've been dating for 2 years. Alexis initiates the ultimatum because she's ready to move her relationship forward. I think she's more the classic anxious type. And Hunter, who's 28, wants to be with Alexis, but not sure that he wants to be engaged. So Hunter, to me, might feel either like a secure person, like what's the rush, or a little bit more avoidant. But we're going to get to some signs about their types a little bit later. Suffice it to say, though, what we do see of Alexis is she's highly sensitive to feedback and rejection, and when Colby isn't attracted to her, this is something she takes very personally. And so those are classic signs. Personalization and fear of abandonment or rejection is classic anxious attachment style. Now, couple number 2, Madeline, who's 24, and Colby, who's 25. They met in college. They've been dating ever since. I think it's only a year and a half, though. Madeline is clearly not ready, and Colby says that he's ready to lock it down with Madeline. Now, besides being attracted to Madeline, Colby doesn't really say much about why he really thinks they're a great partner. He does say they're a good team, but to me, Colby also feels like he has an anxious style. He's a nervous Nick, and remember, he's the only man who has asked for the ultimatum. But on the surface, everyone's looking at, what's wrong with Madeline? She's so quick to be attracted to Randall and other people. But here's the thing that bothers me. Why is she so quick to be looking at other people? Because we find out more that Madeline doesn't feel really heard or listened to. I think Madeline has an anxious style herself, and because she doesn't feel heard or listened to, she can't completely trust Colby. And then there is the question about how trustworthy Colby actually is. Because to me, Madeline's a more low expressive person and Colby's high. But I feel like Madeline can't hold her own with Colby because he's so kind of in there taking the space that it's hard for her to feel like she's equal. So I think that both of them are a pairing, and they say there's like really good physical connection because I think Madeline has a more physical love language, but ultimately Madeline's low expressive, Colby's high expressive, and I think this is going to cause some problems for them. Now, couple number 3, Shanell and Randall. Shanell is 24. She's the one who initiates the ultimatum, and Randall's 26. Now, besides for that, I actually think this couple's pretty well matched. Shanique and Randall, Shanique is clearly more expressive than Randall, but Randall to me seems pretty rational. He's talking about his concerns, mostly financial. Shanique is a big spender. He wants to get out of debt. So you get the sense here like right person, wrong timing. But I wonder if this isn't something that can be approved upon. Now, I think Shanique's energy is also classic anxious attachment style. And what I wanted to highlight here, Shanique to me feels like she really needs to be in control of the situation and things need to go Shanique's way. Where you sleep and what side of the bed, how things should roll out, what it should look like. And oftentimes people who feel out of control in their relationship, externally they can try to control so many things. So that's what I feel. Now, Randall to me could be her opposite. He could either be avoidant or secure, but he's certainly more low expressive. What does that mean? That means that he is not so quick to come out directly and say what he wants and what he needs. But this can be a little bit passive aggressive too, because the person can build resentment because they're not expressing themselves, which brings me to Jake and April. Now, April's 23, a classic anxious attachment style. She's very outspoken, but Jake is 26. I think he's also anxious as well. He is more another low expressive person, just like Randall. So April takes up a lot of space in their relationship, right? She calls herself needy. She's a high touch person. She's looking for a lot of validation and connection. What was that? Take a look at me, hold me. She needs a lot from Jake. But Jake is now cracking a little bit. Even though April's very expressive and says, you know, you've been everything to me. What a great guy you are. Jake, we start to see that he's put a lot of his own needs on the back burner. And why I think Jake is also an anxiously attached person is sometimes the anxiously attached person doesn't learn good boundaries. And somehow Jake didn't assert himself early enough in their relationship. And now he feels like he's given up everything for April. He's just gotten out of the military. He wants to travel, but now he's in a relationship, so he feels kind of torn. April, of course, has her own fertility issues that are driving a lot of her anxiety. She wants desperately to have children and doesn't know if she can. But what's confusing here is the mixed messages. Because again, Jake says he wants to travel, he needs more time, but yet they're having unprotected sex. And somehow it would be okay if they had a child on accident. This to me is what is really something that I feel like both of these couple needs to be able to talk more directly about what's going on. But like Jake buys April a car, she feels like she's a mom without the children. And so I think the issue here is that Jake, and he himself admits he needs to be more expressive. And April needs to tone down her expressiveness. So I feel like this couple, we need to level out. Now, the fifth couple, Rae, who's 24, and Zay, who's 25. They dated through college. Rae knows what she wants. She gives Zay the ultimatum. She's frustrated because she feels like Zay is not including her on her social media. She doesn't feel like he's representing her. And that she has goals in her mind. She thinks that there should be a proposal, a honeymoon, boom, boom, boom. And Rae seems like she's a pretty confident person. She, to me, is either more secure or a little bit avoidant. Because here's the thing, Zay complains that Rae is not very expressive. More the signs of an avoidant person. She keeps her feelings and her thoughts close to her chest. Zay, however, he needs a lot. And to me, he could be a fearful avoidant person. He's alluded to the fact that there was something negative happened in his childhood. I'm not sure if it was abuse or neglect, but I get the sense that Zay is very easily triggered and he just needs more from Rae. And I don't know if Rae ever learned that in her family. Her dad seems pretty quiet. Does she know how to console Zay? Can she give them that while also not giving up herself? That's the dilemma in this couple. Now, let's go to the sixth couple. That's Lauren and Nate. Nate is the oldest. He's 30. Lauren's 26. They've been dating for 2.5 years, but they disagree, of course, on one important point, and that's children. Lauren doesn't want to sacrifice. She doesn't want to have kids. Nate clearly does. All right. So with Lauren, I don't know her style. We don't have a lot of information about Lauren, but she could be an avoidant or a more secure person. I don't get the sense that she feels very anxious to me. Nate, however, we see him scrambling to find a partner, and then we see him impulsively proposing to Lauren. That to me also feels like a more anxious kind of style. All right. So now let's get on to the choice phase. Now they're all dating, trying to figure out who's my next partner. Do I want someone similar to my last partner? Do I want someone new? For 3 weeks, we're going to act as a married couple. Again, this isn't real. This isn't like real dating where people do this. This is an experiment. But really the point is to push the envelope to get more clarity about what you like and what you don't like. And I do think it's an interesting dilemma. So, who chooses who? Jake and Rae. It feels like this is a no-brainer. They both feel very similar in terms of their energy. Again, they're both low expressive types. So I think that's going to be a really interesting pair. Randall and Madeline also feel misunderstood by their partner. Randall feels misunderstood by Shanell. Madeline feels misunderstood by Colby. Another interesting pair of low expressives. Now, Shanell and Zay, they're actually choosing someone opposite of their partner, right? Because Shanell and Randall's low expressive, she chooses Zay, who's also high expressive. So I think there's going to be a lot of fire and conflict in that relationship. But Shanell chose someone different than Randall, and Zay is choosing someone very different than Rae. I think that's an interesting choice. Now, we also know this gets very confusing because who you choose has to choose you. Colby chooses Lauren, but now they're put together. But that feels more like a friendship to me. So what we learn from this first 4 episodes and from the dating portion is that it's easier to talk to a stranger about your partner, about what's working or what isn't, and then to talk more objectively about what you want or need when you're not so tied to someone, right? You can talk about money or children. And I think that talking through some things gives you more clarity, right? Because your partner keeps saying, well, why don't you want this? Like, why don't you want kids? But when Lauren, in particular, was talking to Colby about children, it wasn't that she didn't really want to have children. It was something more, that maybe she didn't want to be a single mom. Maybe that Nate was working too much. So what we find out is that sometimes it's easier to talk to someone else because your thoughts and your decisions affect them, and therefore you can have more clarity. A stranger can help you get to what's important or not. So, for the ultimatum thus far, we learned that a stranger can help clarify things sometimes better than a partner can. And we also learned that these 2 couples out of the 6 got engaged because they didn't want to go through the process. And I actually really respect them. I have a lot of grace, I just want to say, for these people who put their lives out there for the rest of us, for myself to analyze and talk about what makes for a healthy relationship. Stay tuned for the next episodes.